customer tonight, so that works out well. But no, I just want to thank you for being here. And we've been a business here in Chesapeake in this location since 1998. We've been in the Hampton Roads region for a while. But the economic development team, at that time, I think it was Don Goldberg was involved with it, were instrumental in getting us into this industrial park and helping our business. We grew from about 50 employees to about 230 from the time we moved from Virginia Beach to this location. And there was a lot of support from the city, and frankly, the business community here accepted us with open arms early on when we were relatively new. Now we've been here for a long time. So just thank you again.
So the leadership circle began as a request actually from the former city manager, Jim Baker, in partnership with the Chesapeake Alliance, probably 4 or 5 years ago when Jim was here. And because Jim was looking for a strong business group who could help support some of the things in the city that he needed help with. So it's taken, I don't know, 3 to 5 years to get here, but it's so exciting to have everyone turn out here. As chairman of the Chesapeake Alliance, I also want to recognize 2 other individuals that have helped us get to this point. Dan Bell over here, who's our current executive director and secretary. JD Miles, who is our treasurer. All of us do this for free. So that other than a few expenses that we have every once in a while that we try to get reimbursed from. So we're not employees of the alliance or the leadership circle. So we're all doing this for the heart of Chesapeake. So thanks to both of you. I also want to thank Shelley Helms, right over here on my left, and Amy Harris, who's somewhere here on the front, who have put together this PowerPoint presentation together with me, and lots of advice, but also a few wines every once in a while too. So they helped get me here too, and I know nothing about PowerPoint, so I'm going to tell you that it's been excruciating for me. But with that, I would like to welcome and introduce Mayor Rick West, who I've met several times about this group and its importance, and he's encouraged me to keep, or our group, to keep going forward on this. So, Rick, Mayor West, if you come up, please.
First of all, let me just be clear. I know you think we have a big crowd because sudden urge for business participation in government, but I think it, as Michael Dennis, I think it's the free booze and food call the crowd. I'm getting. Listen, today, some of us, I see a few people attended the Virginia Beach State of the City, and Virginia Beach has a lot of wonderful things to talk about. And when you're there, you just run into so many wonderful people. And it's so good to get here and see these people, Chesapeake people here, who care about our city. And you just said it, the heart. You're here because of the heart. You care about the heart of our city. And it just means so much to me as mayor. And I can tell you, it's just a valuable resource. What Jim Baker told you years ago is true. There are times where we have projects that have political oppositions and that really hurt our city. And sometimes those folks that show up for those proposals end up influencing the council in a way that I don't think is good for our city. So we need a balance. We need to hear from another side. And quite honestly, in those applications, and that's okay, but that's not enough. And to hear from a group like this that has the heart of Chesapeake number one in their mind, it just it's a great influencer for all of our council. And so I thank you for being here today. I thank you for the work that you have done, and we thank you for the work that you're going to do.
So as you can see, there are already 3 other similar business groups that have been in existence, one since 1977. See, there's Virginia Beach Vision, Corporation, which is a partnership. And I've been using this screen for about 2 years now that says Chesapeake ? So we're here tonight. We have a new date for that, right? So it's today. So we're kicking it off today. So Real quickly, this is part of Virginia Beach Vision's plan. It's a nonpartisan, issue-oriented group to provide private sector leadership and help advance the city in developing further goals of progress. So obviously, business development, comprehensive plan, crisis recovery, flood resiliency, which is important to them, resource development, sustainability, community advocacy, and issue identification and position developments that they provide positions for people in Virginia Beach. Then we have the Greater Norfolk Corporation, which you saw has been around since 1977. And it's pretty impressive to meet with some of those people to understand what a strong group that they've had for all these years. I guess Chesapeake is now 50 plus years now, so almost 60 years, and we haven't had a group like that. So it's also exciting, and thank you again for being here. It's pretty exciting to do that. So I'm going to skip down to the Norfolk Technology Zone, which they're working on, obviously with Norfolk Sea level rise, the St. Paul's quadrant redevelopment, ultra speed internet, and then focus on developing, attracting, and retaining talent. And of course, I think we're all going to have to focus on that, and that's going to be probably a big issue for Chesapeake at some point as well. And again, maybe I'm going to keep probably talking about this through this meeting, because we're going to have to figure out the things we're going to work on, because we got lots of things to work on and some things we can't work on. But I think everybody's going to agree that developing and retaining talent, retaining our kids and grandkids is going to be important to the city of Chesapeake. We also have the Portsmouth Partnership, more of a business development, volunteer business, professional civic leaders. They focus on things, the grooming future leaders, they support public schools, they're promoting trade, tourism, old town, bringing underutilized properties to their highest and best use, creating job opportunities and tax revenue. So those are the three groups that I won't say are competition, because the whole goal is to work with these groups, and in meeting with these groups, they're a big supporter of what we're doing here, because there's some things that we have out in Hampton Roads that needs all of us together. Now, our goal is not only to support Chesapeake initiatives, but also work together with these groups on regional issues. So I'd now like to bring in, introduce Doug Smith. Doug is the chairman of the Hampton Roads Alliance, and Doug's going to talk about a little bit about what these groups mean to the Hampton Roads Alliance, the business of Hampton Roads. He's got a lot of experience because he's been on city council, he's been a city manager, so he's got a lot of experience, and now he's got a really big job. So you want to use that?
If I need, do I need that? Don't do it. I'm happy.
No.
If I need. All right. So these guys somewhat stole my thunder, but I think a couple of things to you. These organizations are really important. As David said, I've worked with Virginia Beach Vision, I've worked with Greater Norfolk Corporation, spent a lot of time with Portsmouth Partnership, starting to spend time with Peninsula now. Every one of them's a little bit different. Some of them have a decent amount of staff. Some of them are off. If you look over at Peninsula now, I think Bob McKenna at the chamber kind of staffs them as a volunteer. There's really no staff. You've got some that it sort of ebb and flow. The Portsmouth Partnership has been at one point partnered with the Housing Authority in the city and created something called the Greater Portsmouth Development Corporation. And they went and bought buildings. They went down and they bought the old Woolworths and the old Hotel Dinwiddie. That's how Roger Brown's came in. And so they realized that it was important to control certain sites in downtown Portsmouth. So this thing can go in lots of directions. I would just say to you, take it where it makes sense for Chesapeake. A couple of challenges I would maybe put out to you is focus on economic development. I mean, there's a lot that goes on in the city, right? And you can always, and everybody's got an opinion on pretty much every topic, but stay focused on the things that can really help your economy grow here. What the mayor and what Jim Baker told you was there are times when they need, call it political cover, call it political support, so that when there is and there's always, it's the naysayers that show up at council, right? What they need are the supporters that come in and say, you know what, yeah, we're gonna spend a lot of public money, but we think we should spend that public money for these reasons, and so they need that. I would also say, stay close to Stephen Wright and his team in the early day, and Chris in the early days of these projects. So I think there's times when they need your help shaping it, so they can talk about, all right, what's coming our way and what can you all support, and we're thinking about doing this. And so when a project comes forward and it's got a lot of support early on, that just makes all the difference in the world. And the last thing David said is really important. There will be times when y'all want to link up with Virginia Beach Vision and Greater Norfolk and these other groups. And we really did that, frankly, in the days of the transportation referendum. But then when we were going through HR TAC and those sorts of things, those groups, that was, transportation was important to all of us. And so having those groups somewhat coordinated and supporting one another was really important. So I think what y'all are doing is critically important. I think you can have a whole lot of fun with it. And as you saw on this list, y'all can be, this thing should be here 50 years from now. Greater Portsmouth is 1983. That was that iteration. That thing has been around since the 60s or 70s. So these things stay around, and they do change. Last thing I'll say, they do change. I would tell you, Greater Norfolk, when I was a city manager, they would come in and hand me these white papers and say, "We think you should do this." And they were thoughtful and they were great. And I would say, "Thanks, but why don't y'all do this? We kind of have a plan." And so if you look at them now, they've gone all in on this Norfolk Innovation Corridor. They've done a deep dive of really understanding it, but now they're implementing that thing. And so that think of yourselves as at times being implementers of making things happen, but just do that in a way that's coordinated with Chris and it's coordinated with Steve and coordinated with the mayor. And if you do, you can really make some interesting things happen much quicker. So, thank you.
Thank you, Doug, for being here. Okay, so let's talk about why we're here and the vision and the purpose of the leadership circle. We haven't come up with our mission statement because between JD, me, and Dan, we want this group to come up with the mission statement. So our goal is to put together a group of diverse people, young people, all kinds of people, and to come up with what the next mission statement is. So we don't have a mission statement right now, but we're going to wing it right now to the idea. Originally, was to put together a group of 75 business owners and leaders, executive level decision makers who are influencers in our community to help create a vision and support and advance initiatives for the city of Chesapeake. In order to be successful, the group will focus on being diverse and different than any other existing or previous Chesapeake business groups. If you've been around Chesapeake for a long time, you know what it's pretty much made of. I don't even have to say what that is, but people say it's a bunch of old white guys, so it's really not. So we are here to change that. This is going to be very diverse. It's a different group than I think you'll ever participate in or be a part of. So that's the goal. And he's still old white guys like me. So, but the different is to be different. Our goal is to prioritize and adopt positions or projects that are important to the city using business task forces, which we kind of stole that from Virginia Beach Vision, in smaller groups to engage, influence, and support the decision makers, both at the local and state levels. The group will provide support to the city manager, the mayor, city council, and state legislators on these important issues, including research, meetings, and speakers on these initiatives. Membership and participation in our group and these task forces would help us stay well informed of all the most important business issues going on in the city. Kind of that secret group that that's always out there, that's well informed in what's going on in the city. Give us the ability to bring in special speakers and consultants from both Hampton Roads and across the country who would have experience and knowledge of the tasks we're working on. Not just the local people, just not the local leaders, but people from the outside that knows what we're going through and how we get to that next level. Lastly, obviously provide business development with the main purpose of making Chesapeake a better and long-standing city. If called upon, the group would help to vet or research new issues that arise in our community. Our members will pay a fee of $1,500 on an annual basis. Always want to put that out front. The other groups that Greater Norfolk, Virginia Beach Vision.
Is that inflation?
That's because of dinner.
It would be inflation because Greater Norfolk Corporation and Virginia Beach Vision pay $1,500 a year. So we could have a vote tonight to go ahead. So the whole goal is to make this the premier body of influence for the city of Chesapeake. We also wanted this to be a serious group. Whether $1,000 from your business is a serious group, I don't know, but it is for the most part. So in order to make this a serious business group of influencers, then we decided to charge an annual fee. Of course, the fee is just to cover all of our expenses and things like that, putting speakers together, bringing speakers together and things like that. I wanted to show you a list of tasks for the city of Chesapeake, probably over the next 20 years, that we put together by city and state leaders as well as business owners. Some people will say, well, that's from city council so-and-so, and that's city council member so-and-so, or whatever, but this is kind of what's going on that we have in front of us in the city of Chesapeake. And that doesn't mean that there's not something on this list that we won't go after. There's some things on this list that our city manager and our city mayor and our city council will take care of. In a few minutes, I'm going to have our city manager, Chris Price, comment on some of these things, as well as his vision for the city and this group. But I want to run through some of these things because maybe all you guys know all this stuff, but there's a lot going on in the city. Now, we have the Williams Farm, 1,400 square foot acre parcel, around 17 near the North Carolina border. It's a mega site. I'm going to let Stephen Wright and Ben White talk a little bit more about that in more detail. But you can see below in Spartanburg, South Carolina, we'd love to see a manufacturing facility like that in Chesapeake. So we have the potential spot, but I'm going to let those guys talk about it a little bit later in a little bit more detailed presentation. Western Branch development, I don't know why these are back to back, but also a lot of things going on in Western Branch, both redevelopment and development. We have Pete Coderides here. Thank you, Pete, for coming. I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about that. He's volunteered to speak a little bit more of that detail as well. Grassfield area development. Our city is this is an area that's underdeveloped. You know, I think everybody knows about the Veterans Bridge. Everything was supposed to take off with the Veterans Bridge. I think our Mayor Krebsloff was responsible for that. The retail business have struggled in the Grassfield area. We still need more rooftops, more daytime employment. So we've really got to figure out how to develop this Grassfield area without overcrowding our schools. We're doing what's good development here because we have businesses out there. And they need more help. Broadband is an exciting new opportunity for Chesapeake and Hampton Roads. City of Chesapeake, Susan Vitale has been leading that effort for city. And we can hope our group may become more involved in this project, get a better understanding because it's a really big thing, but it's a really big thing to try to understand. So again, something our group may or may not get involved in. Offshore wind power. Also a big regional issue coming into the ocean off Virginia Beach. Chesapeake will be affected by the construction as well as the benefits, jobs. But I'm going to let Troy Lindsay and my friend Max Bartholomew talk about that as well in more detail. I think everybody knows about Summit Point. It's a way of providing a workplace, living, dining, and shopping, all within walking distance. Very excited about what's going on in this part of Greenbrier. The Great Bridge Village. I don't know how many people are familiar with the Great Bridge Village, but this project is a way to improve and beautify the Great Bridge area of our city and establish a future waterfront marina and to entice what we have is 10,000 boaters that come through Great Bridge on an annual basis. So not only is that a way that we're going to look to improve Great Bridge Village and to improve that area of Battlefield, but also it's a place for our business and residents to enjoy the beauty of the water, but it's also a place for the boaters to stop and visit all of our restaurants. So again, it's a wonderful thing that we have going on, but it's, you can see someday, maybe not my day, I don't know, but it'd be nice to have people that can have marinas and things like that in the Great Bridge Village. I think I have somebody here that's probably interested in Chesapeake recycling. So, and there's been a lot of discussion about the city's cancellation of curbside recycling. Potential effect will have on our residents in the future of our city. I want to thank Michael Benedetto, who's here someplace. Thank you, Michael, for what you've all done for the city. So recycle that Peak can that came from Big Ugly. Okay, that's perfect. So unfortunately, we're the first Hampton Roads city to cancel curbside cycling. Sorry, Mayor. Sorry, City Manager. And from an economic development perspective, it's unknown what effect that will be for the city of Chesapeake to attract international companies to our city as we go kind of away from this green initiative. So I'm not putting anybody under the spotlight right now, but it might be just a little more than dollars and cents of picking up curbside recycling. So I think our group may be able to tackle that along with economic development to see where, what's the impact going to be if we want to bring in international companies. A lot going on. South Norfolk, including Poindexter Street and surrounding areas, as well as the waterfront. We're very excited to have 4 kids who built a brand new building in South Norfolk and relocate their headquarters there. So much potential in South Norfolk. Bond financing I put on here because it's another business issue that's typically used to fund capital projects for the city, for the roads, bridges, schools, and other buildings, versus using the city's cash reserves. I know I've always asked city council members all the time as a banker why we're not borrowing money at 2.5% or why we're paying cash for bridges and roads and long-term investments and things like that. So it's another area with our group that we could look into to help provide for police and fire and things like that instead of using our cash. But road infrastructure, and I'm going to throw in there, we have a slide on the new Deep Creek Bridge and the Centerville bridges. I'll group all these 3 things into one. And again, very important, the future growth of our city, but also the concern, the effects to our business community as we go through this construction. The Deep Creek Bridge has been a bottleneck for everyone for years in that area. The Centerville Bridge, either through an accident or failure due to age, caused a lot of issues for our businesses with the problem with the bridge, particularly those in the southern Centerville, Mount Pleasant area. So some of these things are things that I just want to point out what's going on in our city. But I know our mayor and our city council and our city manager have a lot of these things, but we'll just figure out at some point where we can fit in and where we can help when the time comes to be the business community voice. And that's the whole purpose of putting this group together. Greenbrier Mall, also concerned because malls are going away. They're slowly going the different direction. So we have a mall right in the middle of Greenbrier is one of our our best area as far as daytime employment. So that mall eventually is going to go away. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to focus on in the future and how we may be able to participate with the mall. We also have Pete Cotarides who's going to talk in a few minutes. We have Western Branch. Pete and his company bought Chesapeake Square Mall. It's going to be interesting to hear Pete talk about that, but maybe my Greenbrier Mall too. I don't know.
One's enough.
Here's another one. The Chesapeake Conference Center. Now, I apologize a little if I'm going too fast or too much, but I just wanted to know let everybody know all the things that are going on. It's interesting. Chesapeake Conference Center has turned into mainly a business meeting facility group, as well as a host for the Chesapeake Hospital Gala, the Chesapeake Sports Club Jamboree, some groups that come out to use the Chesapeake Conference Center. But it struggled not in many years. So the question is, has it outlasted its usefulness as it is? Does it have a hotel attached to it? And of course, what type of facility like the conference center is best for Chesapeake? So just kind of hitting a few more things about what's going on. The city garage trash facility location right next to our wonderful park out there. It's a tough thing because it's located in Greenbrier, a very valuable piece of property. High daytime employment, as I talked about, but the question is whether the property could be used for better use. We also have to offset the complication of relocating all the people that are there. So business development is one thing, and relocating the facility that cost is going to be as tough as well. But so again, another things that we can get involved in as far as a business group. Let's go to retail development. It's always discussion in our community, especially about grocers like Wegmans, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, the Fresh Market. Question is, why not us in Chesapeake? That's always every time you go, why not us? So hopefully our group, if called upon, might be helpful to the city and the retail developers and landing one or more of these companies. Finally, both the city manager and the economic development both realized the need for helping small and minority businesses, as well as the need for a new career center, as the students need not to go to college necessarily to get a well-paying job. I'm going to address this real quickly later on after I let everybody else speak about what the opportunities might be for our group to do this. With all of that, I hate to put him under the microscope, but he took the job. But I would like to now introduce Chris Price, our Chesapeake City Manager, who wakes up every morning which is not those projects that you have, but also does a great job of handling the day-to-day operation. So I know you can wing this, right? So,
Thank you, David, and thank you all for the invitation. So interestingly, that picture's the last time I wore a tie. That was several years ago. I told council actually in my interview that this might be the last day you ever see me in a tie. So if that's important to you, you should consider that as you make your choice. But I think it's a great opportunity. I've been here a little over 2 years now, and it's been a really weird time. I've never been a city manager before, right? So I get here in November of 19, pandemic hits in March of 20. And trying to navigate those waters, big challenge. We're a big organization, so we have 4,000 employees and lots of different business lines. So the big challenge for us is what I would call alignment. Is whether we're in public safety, education, human services, community development, all the different business lines we're in, health, quality of life, parks, rec, libraries. At the end of the day, serving our community, that's the tie that binds us all together. That's the business and public service. And so we try to align the whole organization around achieving common objectives, just like any private business. So we spent a lot of time with council over the 2 years that I've been here, identifying, what are the things we're going to go get after together. We really boiled it down to 3 principles that every employee, every department, every agency, and then putting myself in city council, we measure our success on. So everything we do is going to be aligned around making Chesapeake an exceptional place to live, learn, work, farm, and play. That's the city's vision. We're going to provide outstanding service to our customers and community, regardless of what business line you're in. And we're going to do all of that in a way that's fiscally responsible and sustainable. And so every time we make a decision in the organization, big or small, we look at it through that lens. So when David talked to me about this group, I was kind of thinking about how do they plug in? I'm just getting my feet wet. We have a wonderful regional economic development alliance. We have a great chamber of commerce. A lot of people have regional focus, but I was really excited about having the Chesapeake focus. And when David told me some of the names of the companies and the individuals that were participating, I was all in. So yeah, I'm very happy to be a part of this. But that notion of alignment, that's really what strikes me about the power of this group. I got to tell you, I mentioned, 4,000 employees. We got 250,000 residents, second largest city in Virginia, 100,000 businesses, millions of, employees, travelers, visitors, customers in and out of Chesapeake every single day. And we can't be all things to all people. But those things that we decide to do together, whether that's the business community, that's the elected officials here in Chesapeake, if we can align around a few things and go do those in a great way, we will be very, very successful. So that notion of alignment, I think is critical. And so when David came and approached me, he asked me, I thought it was great, what are the things that we're talking about? He talked to many other people. Some of those projects are on that list. What are things that we could align around to achieve those goals? And I know he's going to talk to you about workforce development, but that's critical. It's critical in the community, critical for businesses, critical for us as an employer. I don't know many things for sure. One thing I know for sure is if we don't have the workforce today and in the future, we will not be a successful city. We will not be a successful region. So any investments that we're making or not making today determines our future, no matter what time horizon that we're looking at. That's whether it's private industry or the city. So I do think we need to continue to work together to figure out the areas that we can be most successful in. When David and I talked, it was around workforce development, really, really critical issue. And for us, particularly in things like minority entrepreneurship. Chesapeake ranks really highly on those quality of life indicators. If you have ever seen a great place to live, safe community, wonderful education, great quality of life. And we take a look at those and not so much about where we rank, but we look at the methodology that they use. So why would this magazine say we're a great place? Or why would this one say we're not a great place? And where do we measure up? So Stephen and I were taking a look at one several months ago, and it was about best place for Black-owned businesses in America. And we're in the top 20. Thought that was amazing, right? And so the next question is why? Why is that? And Why aren't we better? 20 is great. I think we're actually 19. That's great. Why aren't we better? What would it take to be better? So we take a look at the data behind some of those rankings, and it was actually, of all things, home ownership opportunities. So the price of housing relative to the price of average incomes, right? So who would have thought, something related to accelerating minority business opportunities might start with housing choice, right? And so those are the things we're really trying to pay attention to across all of our business lines, of how each of those diverse elements, many of which David had on the screen, how they interrelate to one another to make Chesapeake an exceptional place to live, learn, work, farm. So that's a long-winded way of saying there's a lot of great things I think we could be working on. I really look forward to the opportunity of narrowing down that focus to figuring out on the things that we can go all in on and achieve. We check those boxes, we pick the next list, we go all in on and achieve. And I'm just really excited and looking forward to being a part of that conversation. So again, thank you all for having me. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Chris. So with all of the different tasks we just discussed, I've asked 3 different groups to speak about 3 very important projects in our city in more detail. The purpose being, these are the type of things and these are the type of details that we'll get with this group. In addition, so we have the part that says you'll have all the information about major things that are going on in our community, but hopefully we'll be able to do something about them and support that. So I would like to call up Pete Coterides. We've asked to do a more detailed presentation on what's happening in our Western Branch area, because there's a lot's happening with Pete. So Pete, you want to take this, and we also have the remote if you want to go right or left. If you don't mind doing it.
All right, it's good to see everyone. Thank you, David. I think this is a good, opportunity for us to kind of give a quick overview of what's going on in Western Branch, specifically how it ties into kind of the group that we're talking about today. Real quickly, our company, Coterides Developers, we have about 5,500 apartments and about 2 million square feet of retail space, including the mall. Have been working locally in Chesapeake since, I guess, the mid-'80s. We've done projects in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and we're also in Raleigh, Charlotte, and Richmond. So we have a little broader kind of view of kind of what's going on kind of around town here, but also how we kind of stack up with other submarkets, with other communities around Virginia and North Carolina. Real quickly, the mall, here's kind of a sheet out of our one of our marketing items. A couple things to point out is Western Branch really is a really strong core of the city, an important core. We heard about Greenbrier, how important it is. We've always seen and viewed Western Branch as kind of an opportunity of a similar opportunity to what's in Greenbrier. Of course, there are city lines that are close in to kind of Western Branch that kind of have some spillover effects and require a little bit of kind of cooperation and thoughtfulness with kind of neighbors. But if you look at the household income, if you look at the daytime employments, if you look at the population, the visits, it's an area that really stacks up very well with other kind of commercial nodes, Greenbrier, Lynn Haven area, Military Circle area, Patrick Henry on the Peninsula. Incomes and population, it really stacks up as a peer to those areas. Each of them have kind of their own points that are stronger on than others, but it's definitely one of the cores for Hampton Roads. And we view it, with the high-rise bridge with Monitor Merrimack as really kind of the center of kind of the western portion of Tidewater, and the numbers kind of back it up. So when we kind of got rolling out in Western Branch, we've been building projects and I guess purchased our first piece of land in I guess 2007. So it's been, I guess, about 15 years since we started focusing here. We looked a couple of other times with Tony, but we didn't have much success in some earlier tries. But in any event, we built on the western side of Portsmouth Boulevard. We built residential communities, which were important. Having been on several Western Branch improvement committees over the last 10 or 15 years, one of the things that came up is retail is more employment. Retail as you all know, had been kind of declining in Western Branch with the mall. A lot of times we ran into, I think the city had run into the shiny penny problem, which is Harborview had the nice shiny penny, and everyone would go to Harborview and see a beautiful new thing and would be attracted there, even though the numbers weren't as good, but the look and the feel of it was much better. And that's something I think that Western Branch kind of struggled with in the 2000s. It was something that we, from that committee, but through our experience with retailers, we've kind of learned as well. So in any event, one of the items was kind of a growth trajectory. I think y'all mentioned about Grassfield, same out in Western Branch. There was the numbers were good, but they were flat to slightly declining, which is not something any retailer wants to hear about or know that they're going into an area that's going down. They want the slope to be up. It doesn't have to be skyrocketing, but it definitely has to be up and not down. So working with the city, I think we've kind of set the trajectory with some larger residential, quality residential developments to make the trajectory going up and down, which has been well received by all the retailers we're talking to. In addition, there's 2 large employment generators. One is the Amazon facility at the Grove, which is in Chesapeake, and the other one is the Amazon facility in Suffolk. Both of those together are going to be thousands of jobs. They're going to add a lot of traffic to Portsmouth Boulevard and really kind of serve as a employment base for the area. I mean, we all have to realize that when the mall was operating, it had hundreds of employees in there. They all more or less have gone away, or a lot of them have gone away. Those weren't $100,000 a year jobs. They were store managers, assistant managers, clerks. There was a whole group of people working there, daytime, evening employment, that kind of has gone way down. Amazon, the jobs that are coming there are going to help replace some of those jobs that have gone, and I think give a good foundation for the area to let us kind of really focus on the mall and have a good story to tell to retailers. So just to give you all kind of a brief info on the mall, we purchased the mall a few years ago. We got geared up with marketing and started to talk to retailers, and of course COVID came up. So we put everything on hold while all that got straightened out. We've gotten good response from retailers. Certainly, and y'all may have seen the article in the paper a couple days ago. Since maybe the first of the year, we've really gotten a lot of interest, a lot of follow-up interest, a lot of new interest, more serious interest from people we've already talked to. So we feel kind of the time is a good time for having something good happen at the mall. The downside that we're facing is all those conversations we had over the last couple of years were all with construction costs that were much lower than today. So we're in the middle of that conversation that the world's changed a little bit, things are a little more expensive, but I'm sure we'll get it all sorted out. So how we tie in the big picture, jobs, retail, economic development opportunities. So let me go to the next page. The mall is about 70 acres. We own we own the mall, but technically we own 15 acres. We land lease with a right to purchase an additional, I guess, about 45 or so acres, and Target and the theater own their parcel. So we have the opportunity to have a large piece of land that we can work with over time. The development plan is going to move from west to east. We own the property on the west side, and you can see that a demolished Sears pad. Our discussions have led us to conclude that probably, and the retailers have told us they want this, is a good full-line grocer would be a good anchor to kick the project off, and would allow other users to be confident in the location to site there. So we've been working with them, with grocers, to try to get somebody that's solid, that can help us work on development, a redevelopment plan to kind of revitalize the retail portion of the mall. We are handcuffed to some degree with a land lease. We can't just go there and do whatever we want. But what we're trying to do is start with the quality on the west and move east over time. The land lease, I think, is up in 13, 14 years. So the idea is it would be a phased project over time, where we start east, go to the west, and bring some density and bring more opportunity for economic development over time. Go to the next one. So first class, something that looks good, that everyone will be proud of in the city. We're not looking to do something that's, a low-end project. Go to the next one. And then how this ties into the overall area. We talked about retail, grocers, jobs, all things that David, mentioned. And then, an example of kind of what would be city participation. And then I know the mayor's here, I know we've talked about it, is really focusing in on kind of the public infrastructure, Portsmouth Boulevard, from the interstate in, both sides of the interstate, to make sure when somebody shows up from out of town and is looking at 5 locations, they're going to remember that, hey, this is a slick, nice, new, fresh area. Someone cares about it. It has the quality. You can see the quality and the maintenance and the pride of ownership. And part of it is us, part of it's the city. And I think that's a group to kind of tie it in. This is a type of project that kind of ties in 4 or 5 of the items that we talked about earlier, all in one project. And it would be nice to have a group like this that can help you support it when these things come up, because some of the things take money, some of them take political will, some of them may have objections because other people have other interests. But the idea is to have a group in a situation where we can kind of tie all this together, present it, and make sure we're working on a unified plan that kind of checks, as many of the long-term goals of the city as we can, because properties like this and Greenbrier Mall don't come up very often. There's not a lot of, ready to go 50-acre sites without no wetlands that are developable with roads and infrastructure already to them. So I think that's kind of a quick Chesapeake Square Mall Western Branch update, but also kind of how it ties into kind of what we're talking about today here, that a group like this can kind of help plug in to move the ball forward on it being successful and helping the city meet its goals. So that was the last slide, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Pete. Does anybody have a question why it's called Portsmouth Boulevard to Chesapeake? So I brought that up to Brian Solis one time. He said, "Oh, I think I can make that change." He's got one of those before, I think. So of the many things he's working on, maybe we could change Portsmouth Boulevard to something else related to Chesapeake. So now, if I can ask Max Bartholomew and Troy Lindsay with Dominion Energy and a longtime supporter of Chesapeake Alliance to give us a presentation on offshore wind.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon. Max Bartholomew, retiree from Dominion Energy. Good news is we got this unbelievable project, one of the most exciting projects in the history of Dominion, probably one of the most significant projects for the state of Virginia, the Hampton Roads area, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach particularly. Doug Smith lives this project every day. If you're looking for him every Monday morning at 10 o'clock, he's on the phone with us, and I'm sure he's on the phone a lot. I want to thank everybody here. Mayor West, got to see you at lunch today. I'm one of the guys actually come to Chesapeake, but don't want to come to Chesapeake. These are exciting times in Chesapeake with the offshore wind, the coastal offshore wind project. I'm on the project team. That's about the only thing that can lure me back. I'm not doing a very good job being retired, so I'm working on doing a little bit better, but it really is a project that I want to be part of, and we're glad the city of Chesapeake will be part of it. Well, thank Chris Price and his staff. They've been phenomenal. Mayor West and the city council has been phenomenal. I mean, we've gotten support from everyone very enthusiastically. So we're excited to get started. I've got my colleague Troy Lindsay here. He does live in Chesapeake, just for the record. So he has been recently promoted to manager of external affairs at Dominion. So these are exciting times for him also.
Not only brother to Chesapeake, Indian River graduate, married a woman who went to Western Branch, and my 2 kids went to Hickory. So, offshore wind. Okay, basically what's offshore wind here? What we've got out there, if you haven't been out, I'm telling you, it's absolutely phenomenal what's going on 27 miles off the coast of Virginia. What's going to happen here is Dominion's taking a look at what's called its carbon footprint. We need to determine what's going to be the energy source of the future going forward. As you know, coal, natural gas used to be the thing of how we power things. That's all changing with things becoming greener now. Okay, what offshore wind is going to do for us is create hundreds of jobs, millions of tax revenue. It's going to bring and it's going to complement our solar energy. Think about what solar energy does. Solar energy is just what it does. From the sun, the solar rays during the daytime. When we don't have the sun at night, the wind on the ocean. So that's a complement with offshore wind and solar that we got going on. This is the first offshore wind project in federal waters. So we're out of the gate. A lot of other states are following us, but we're out of the gate right now on that. Today, we have 2 6-megawatt turbines out there. They are actually performing much better than we thought. They're powering 3,000 homes right now today as we speak. Now, it doesn't just go to the homes that's in Virginia. This particular energy goes on what we call the grid, and that disperses to all different locations. What we're planning for right now, like I said, we're 27 miles off with our 2 test turbines. We're going to be between 27 and 42 miles off the coast. For those of you who are familiar with Camp Pendleton, that's where the landing spot is, in Camp Pendleton. We've got planning for 176 14-megawatt wind turbines, enough to power, as you can see, 660,000 homes. It's more than 800 feet tall, and the reference for that is, if you know or have looked at the Washington Monument, taller than the Washington Monument. That just gives a reference on that. Our pilot project is 600 feet. Those were just the 2 test ones that we have that are doing great. But the commercial ones that are coming on board in 2026 are going to be 800 feet tall. And so that just gives you a reference point of how tall these trees are. What's going to happen with the actual energy here? What's it doing for our area? Approximately 900 jobs, 143 million with an economic impact during the construction phase of this. 1,100 jobs with a $210 million impact. And we wanted to certainly keep everything as local as we could with the veterans. We're dealing with the local high schools here. I mean, we'll go down to middle school if we have to get these folks to know that you do not need a college degree to have these type of jobs to work on offshore wind. We're maximizing our opportunities with all vendors and subcontractors here, and everything is in Virginia. CLOW will generate 8.8 million in megawatt hours. So just to give you what that's going to do for the economy, that's not the economy, but the environment. Look at this, taking more than 1 million non-electric vehicles off the roads. 1 million. It's growing more than 100 million trees in 10 years. And the thing about our smartphones, 800 billion smartphones. So this is the type of green energy that's coming about based on just the natural wind that we have today. This is kind of how it works for you engineers, and I'm not one. Here's how it works. We've got the offshore wind cables out there. We've got an undersea cable that connects to that. We've got an offshore wind substation. And by the way, for those of you who do live in Virginia Beach like Max, you cannot see the turbines from the beach. Okay. It's very clear day. Okay, clear day. All right. I'll refute it. Clear day, you can see it. All right. But because of the curvature of the earth, they're very hard to see now. If you go on the 13th, 14th floor, say the Hilton Hotel, there it is. All right. So the connection, and it comes on to what's called SMR, and what we know as SMR is Old Camp Pendleton. That's where the landing spot is, Camp Pendleton. Once it lands at Camp Pendleton, then we've got to do we go to a collector station, which is in Virginia Beach, and our ultimate goal is to get it to our Fentress substation, which is located in Chesapeake. So as the crow flies, it's about 13 miles. All right, so we've gotten all of our permits. Max, what was the date that SEC took it? November 5th. So everything is now in the SEC's hands. And I believe today the SEC came to do what's called a route tour, just to kind of see, what is the actual route of the particular transmission lines, because keep in mind, the wind is blowing. We've got to get it from out there in the ocean to back here on land to put on the grid to make it usable for everybody. Okay, the undersea cables, that's working for us. Transmission lines at SMR, we're switching at the naval station in Oceana. We will have a substation on the Oceana base, and we will continue down, and like I said, end up in Venture Sexton. Partnering with communities. Like I said, we got input from all the communities that will be not only impacted, but we're using what we call our existing right-of-ways. So where we have transmission right-of-ways today, that's what we're using to put the lines in. We may have to expand those right-of-ways somewhat, but we're definitely trying not to acquire or do eminent domain on anyone's land. We want to use existing right-of-ways to make this grow. This is just kind of some milestones of where we're at on here. So we checked the box on public meetings. We've had public meetings after public meetings after public meetings. So we're now getting to the final approval stages, because as you know, what I said before, in 2026, this thing goes live. We're ready to go. Right. This is where, if you want any information, we can certainly give that to you. But if there's any questions, I will take them at this time. Sure. Yes, sir.
See, 176 of them, right?
Yes.
What about navigation, ship navigation?
We had to get certainly the approval from the Navy, because that is the main path that they come into the Norfolk Naval Station that has been approved.
What about like commercial?
Commercial, that's not a problem. We've gotten with all the fishermen and everything like that. And believe it or not, once you put these offshore wind turbines there, it becomes a natural reef and natural barrier for fish to come in, the commercial fishermen they love. Yes, sir.
I'm just, the answer, I was on Ballot for 4 years, Virginia Offshore Wind Development Authority. As you know, working with the commission, we put off going after the lease until we had all opposition. That's a 15 square mile area, 27 miles over. So the Navy, the Air Force, fisheries, the port.
Yes.
White whales.
White whales, yes.
We got everybody on board before we went for the lease, before you went for the lease. And,
Yes.
so this is ready to go.
Yeah.
There's no opposition on the earth.
You're right. It was a long process though, because you had to check a lot of boxes, a lot of federal boxes. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put stop wrong right there. Andrew Sinclair with the Port of Virginia.
Okay.
We are big fans of this.
Great.
And, we worked with Golem on the front end on
Yes.
the lease areas to make sure that there was a complete deconfliction with the shipping routes
Yes.
on that end. So where the turbines are being placed is not where the ships are moving. And then the cables are going in well below, right? There's no conflict underneath. They're in the seabed, well below. If the ship's hitting those, there's much bigger problems. And the partnerships that we have with, the lease you guys are doing, not in Chesapeake, but in Portsmouth, to help do the loadouts, so we can start to work that out too. So.
And he's not a plan. Any other questions?
I think it's important to you're building a ship to install these right now. That's going to be U.S. owned, U.S. manned.
Yes, yes.
The only one in the
There's
United
something
States.
that's called the Jones Act. So the Jones Act says that you can't do anything from a port that's in the United States from a foreign vessel. And the reason why we didn't build a ship here is because our shipping industry here could not handle the business. So it's being built in Texas. It's halfway built right now, and it will be here. And what it's going to do for Dominion, certainly we'll use it not only for our project, but for the projects that come up and down the East Coast. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Since the second time, but this is the type of presentation and this type of information this group is going to be all about, and how we can help with these things. And as mentioned before, the Frank B. Williams Farm is probably one of the biggest things that can happen in Chesapeake, Hampton Roads, across Virginia in the next several years. Neither Vince Mastrocco or his representatives, the Williams Farm, were here with me here, so I've asked Stephen Wright with Chesapeake Economic Development, and then White and Wright, to give us an update on the scope of the project. Thank you, guys.
You can call us W and W. Whole Clint, thanks for having us here, and I really appreciate you mentioning Don Goldberg. Don Goldberg hired me here and hired Ben well over 20 some odd years ago. We were 5 at the time. Yeah. But, you know, we're really excited to have an opportunity to talk to this group because, you know, Chesapeake is a pro-business city. Make no bones about it, okay? I've had the opportunity to work in Chesapeake and other cities in Hampton Roads, other communities in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Chesapeake is a pro-business city. They get it, and it starts at the top with our mayor and our city council. It flows down to our economic development authority. We have some of our economic development authority members here, a former authority member here as well, and certainly with city manager's office. Chris Price, Brian Solis, they support the economic development department in a way that we could not do what we do, could not have the success that we have without that leadership. So it's really, really important for you guys to know that this is a pro-business city, but the main reason it's a pro-business city is because of all of it, okay? When I have an opportunity to describe our business community to my colleagues around the state, I always hear from them problems and, you know, they've got people that give them a hard time. I can say that here in Chesapeake, the years that both Ben and I have been here, we've never really had any significant problems with our businesses. The businesses in this community have always supported economic development and have really been a big part of our success. All right, so I just want to say that first and foremost. Ben and I are going to share some information with you about the Coastal Virginia Commerce Park. Who's heard of the Coastal Virginia Commerce Park? Okay, all right, now, so I got another question for you. Who's heard of the Frank Williams Farm? There we go. All right, so we're going to tell you a little bit about this site because, you know, in economic development, one of the most important things that we need to have a good economic development program is we need sites. We need places to put businesses when they want to come to Chesapeake, also when they want to grow in Chesapeake, okay? And I will tell you, we have never really we've not been in a really good position like that since probably back in the 90s or early 2000s. At that time, we had a lot of sites and we had a lot of businesses like to move, take advantage of those sites. So all the easy sites, they're all gone. All the sites that we have to market now, they have some challenges. But I think what you're going to find, particularly with the Frank Williams Farm, or I'm sorry, the Coastal Virginia Commerce Park, I think you're going to find that the challenges can be overcome. And if we overcome those challenges, there are significant benefits for the entire city of Chesapeake, and particularly the business community. All right. So first slide. So one of the things about this site that makes it a really, really good economic development site is the fact that it's 4,000 acres. Okay. What you're looking at here on the slide, down here in the corner, Coastal Virginia Commerce Park, that is 4,000 acres. All right. Let me put this into perspective for you. Greenbrier, the Greenbrier we all know and love and enjoy, it's about 3,000 acres. Okay. So the opportunity down here on the North Carolina line is absolutely phenomenal. Now, when we tell people that this property is located down on the North Carolina line, they say, well, man, that's way out there. It's not way out there. As you can see, 12 miles at I-64. Okay, I will tell you, Ben and myself, we've been at the north end of that property. And I'm telling you, you can get to downtown Norfolk in less than 20 minutes. Hard to believe, but it can be done. We have done it. We didn't speed. But you know, we've talked about the site for a very, very long time. You know, this has been something that's been out on the horizon for quite some time. Let me back up and say this. You know, because we are always looking for sites, we have come to the conclusion that there are 3 things you need to have a real economic development site. First of all, you need good dirt. That's never really been a problem here in Chesapeake. We're the 2nd largest city in the Commonwealth, 363 square miles. We got land for days, okay? But the dirt, it needs to be good dirt. No environmental issues with the dirt, no wetlands, good soil conditions. You need all of that. You have to have that for a good economic development project. The second thing that you need is access. If you've got a good piece of dirt, but people can't get to it, business isn't going to go there, right? So it's really, really important that you have good access to that site, particularly road access. Now, if you got rail access, as well as deep water access, now you really got something, okay? The third thing you need is infrastructure. Infrastructure is you got a good site, you can get to it, but there's no power, you got no lights, you can't operate a business in the dark, or you got no gas. It does get a little cold sometimes. You need gas to keep warm. More importantly, you need public utilities, water, and especially sewer, because y'all got to do what we got to do, and you need a way to deal with that, right? So you need, again, dirt, access, infrastructure, okay? When we talk about the Frank Williams Farm, we've got 2 of the 3 covered, period, no doubt about it. 4,000 acres. Of that 4,000 acres, there's probably maybe, what'd you say, 60 acres of wetlands on 4,000 acres. What's more is this site is completely clear. 60 acres of wetlands. It's mainly some of the ditches and canals that run through the property, okay? So not only does this property have very few wetlands, it is cleared, okay? The EDA recently bought a piece of property and we're kind of getting into development mode. It costs about $12,000 to $15,000 an acre to clear a piece of property. Multiply that times 4,000. Okay, this site is already cleared. Okay, you need road access. Fortunately, the city and the state years ago built the new Route 17. That is an interstate quality road that runs right by this project. What's more, the city a few years later spent $342 million to build a Veterans Bridge. That provides excellent access into our region, particularly into our port facilities, right, Andrew? All right. So the access is not an issue either, okay? We can go to the next slide. Before I talk about infrastructure, I do want to let you know that, again, the leadership of the city has recognized that this is a wonderful opportunity site. In 2015, our city council recognized that this site has significant economic development potential, and they allowed VEDP, the state's economic development arm, to designate it as a true mega site. But just saying it's a mega site doesn't mean anything. There were other steps that the city took as well. Number one, in 2015, they designated that this tract of land would be studied to be considered a unique economic development opportunity site. Short of it is, this is a good place to put a manufacturing hub, large employers. This is something that the city needed to consider. A few years later, they actually designated this site. After studying it, they designated it as a unique economic development opportunity site, and they amended the comp plan to make sure that this property would be designated for commercial and industrial development. That is huge, all right? Now, there are a few steps that we still need to take. One of those is the property's got to be rezoned, okay? Right now, we've got the unique opportunity designation. We've got the comp plan that says it should be zoned, but we haven't gone through that process yet. We're hoping that the landowners will initiate that process relatively quickly. All right, next slide. All right, so what you're seeing here is kind of a layout of the initial 1,000 to 1,400 acres of Commerce Farm, okay? And this is all the way down at the state line. I should point out to you that I think when you look at the site, the first 3.5 miles into the state of Virginia is right along the Frank Williams Farm. 3.5 miles, okay? In addition to that, there are 3 designated locations for kind of an interstate exchange. So access to this site has been taken care of. This site is definitely going to be accessible, not just the initial 1,000 or so acres that you see here, but the additional 3,000 acres north of it. All right. Now, next slide. One of the things I talked about, again, needing dirt, good land, good access, infrastructure. Our issue, our concern with this site is that we need to enhance the infrastructure. All right. I will tell you, in addition to making amendments to the comp plan, designating the site for development, the city has already begun to take steps to enhance the infrastructure that will ultimately serve this site. Right now, underway is the design of a $30 million water and sewer line that will essentially extend water and sewer from up here along Dominion. It'll come down West Road and it will end at the Chesapeake Regional Airport. All right. That's a $30 million project just to get it about a third of the way from where the utilities are now to get all the way to the Frank Williams Farm. Okay. So if a third of the way is 30 million, you can imagine to get it the rest of the way, it's going to cost a pretty bit as well. All right. But I will tell you, the city is really interested in seeing the developers make this project a reality because the opportunity is massive. Just last week, we had representatives from the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. They were in town. And as we talked to them, we wanted them to kind of validate what our thoughts were about this being a great mega site. And we were told from those individuals that this is indeed the #1 mega site in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Okay, this is #1. All right. A little later in that conversation, we asked them, we said, hey, what do you guys define as a mega site? And they said, well, to us, a mega site is anything over 1,000 acres. So really, we have the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 mega site. Am I right? Okay. So we know that there's still some heavy lifting that needs to be done. I will tell you that the leadership of the city is going to make sure that we leave no stone unturned in trying to identify resources to get those utilities the rest of the way down into the site. Okay. We are aggressively talking to the state, talking to the port. We're even talking to other communities in Hampton Roads that may want to work with us to bring this transformational opportunity to pass. All right. The next infrastructure issue that we have is natural gas, and this one gets a little bit more tricky. It gets tricky because Columbia Gas has a facility that's about 15 miles north of this. North Carolina has one that's a little bit closer. I probably shouldn't go into too much detail, but I will tell you this. We, from an economic development standpoint, we probably would not advocate for bringing a gas line from North Carolina to the site. And the reason is pretty simple, all right? Right here, this is the Pasquotank Commerce Park. It's only about 80 acres. No real competition for our 4,000 acres, okay? Not real competitive. But there's been some talk about extending gas from this location to get it to the site, to Virginia Commerce Park site. I think Ben and we're not really concerned about the 89 acres of Pasquotank at their park, but when you bring this line here, look at all of this land that then becomes truly our competition for the development of the Williams. So this is something that we're going to have to figure out as well. You know, we have had conversations, and I want to say Ben White has really led the charge on meeting with all of the franchise utilities. He's had many conversations with Troy and Max about this. We understand it's going to be a challenge, but we really do think it's worth it. Because when you think about 4,000 acres, You think about the opportunity that can come, it's just phenomenal. This is truly, this is a project, quite honestly, that Chesapeake can't afford not to do. All right. This is the future of economic development in Chesapeake. This is going to take care of us for the next 60 years. Any questions? All right. Yes, sir.
Remind me when, what are the hurdles or the time frame for what's now 17 to be part of what will in the future be,
All right.
interstate, 87?
I-87.
Yeah, yeah.
I-87. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So I started and I told you you needed access there and all that stuff. So we got the access covered. Route 17 right now is interstate quality. No doubt about it. All right. So yes, when you come up from this site to get into Norfolk, you pass two stoplights. One is at the Walmart Shopping Center. The other is at Grassville High School. That's it. I will tell you right now that Route 17 is being used as a commerce corridor. Ben and I, we talk about this a lot. We have a very difficult time understanding what the benefit is for Chesapeake to have that area designated as an interstate. We know that if it gets designated as an interstate and improvements are made, it will certainly help North Carolina. But we're not so sure that it helps us. But that's a decision that will be made far, far above my pay grade. But those are the thoughts that we have.
Let me throw this out to you though, perhaps not specifically for Chesapeake, but one of the knocks on the whole Hampton Roads region is we're in a cul-de-sac, right? And if that becomes an interstate, psychologically, won't businesses think about this being a more accessible region, even if though it's marginally a different road? I don't know. I'm just.
And that's certainly something to consider. I will say, if you get on 17 right now, you'll see a lot of truck traffic, more than most people would anticipate. And it's because when you take 17 down into North Carolina, and you can pick up 64 to get to 95. Everybody knows you want to get to 95. That's the goal, right? Well, 17 to 64 to 95 is just as good as 50, taking 58 to 95. If you're going south going 95, if you're going south going 95, that's probably the preferred route. So that's something that we're certainly going to have to discuss. The transportation planners, they're getting into that. But again, we look at things really from a cost benefit standpoint. Sure. And there would be significant cost to Chesapeake if we make that an interstate corridor. Okay. The question is, what's the benefit? And that's where we really look at it.
Thanks, David. It's 5 minutes till 6:30, so give me about 7-8 minutes and I'll wrap this up, and we still have some cold beverages there, so you don't have to run out. I do want to mention something that's really near and dear to my heart. Maybe it'll happen with this group as well. There's a lot of big projects out in this city, but I also want to mention something else that's very important. That should include business retention. And the city's currently working on a plan and a website to assist small businesses, license permits, places to get help. Through the city's COVID-19 business grant program, hopefully everybody's familiar with that. Economic development, the city gave out $5 million, 500 grants to small businesses. And these were grants. This was free during COVID. So it was a great thing that the city did. One of the things that they learned with this is there's a lot of things that small and minority businesses lack. Assistance with accounting services, such as QuickBooks, legal services, and business and health insurance options, business-to-business introductions between similar groups to support marketing ideas and vendors and cost savings. You learn from some of these small businesses, whether it's nail shops or barber shops or wherever it is, they don't have access to groups like we have right here. So building access for groups like this, as well as providing that, they don't have access to QuickBooks, so they'd be able to afford QuickBooks and things like that. So as part of this group and part of my dream, I'd love to bring those type things to small business, the minority business, and things like that, which you'll find out is really the heart of Chesapeake. It really is. It was, and again, I'm going to have to give the city Chris Price and his group and the mayor. We saved a lot of businesses out there. When you give someone $12,500 to the middle of COVID with their rents $1,000, it saved them. So, along with that, I want to mention one more thing with that Chris was talking about. Our Chesapeake Career Center. We have a career center that's falling down. I mean, when I talk about falling down, I don't say falling down, but when I go in there and it's the old tiles that I used to have in elementary school, okay, they're often going down the wall. Okay, you remember those? Okay, okay. So this is what our career center looks like. But if you look at all the things that we're offering for our students, and these are type of careers that don't require college educations, college debt, and things like that. This is I know a big deal for our city manager and our city. Unfortunately, you see the number up there, $75 to $100 million. But a group like this could get behind this because it's going to take state money to do this. And a group like this would have the political power to be able to talk to the right people to get some of that money. So I wanted to put that up there because the Technology Center is a great thing. If you haven't taken a tour, you know, call someone over there. It's great the things that they're doing over there. So that's another thing that our group may have the power to do that. All right, we'll wrap this up real quick. Stephen, you were going to be another, you got anything else for me? You were going to be my wrap up guy, but you want to wrap up or you're good where you are? He's got a crab face. I think he's good where he is. Okay, our goal, initial goal was to get 20 businesses to buy in and believe in this group and join it, pay the first year annual dues and commit to its success. These are what I call our first 20 supporting members. And don't count them, there is 21 there. My marketing person over here says there's really 21, but I wanted to get 20 and I had someone else come in and said, David, I want to be part of that. So if you are in this room, if you please stand if you're on this list, but you can see the list of people, Max, Vince, Clinton Muth, Doug Smith of Herndon, who's not here, Don Matheson, Eddie Russell, Coffin and Canole, Eric Short, Montero, Teresa Peters, John Murphy, Eric Sticker with Harlan Construction, Leonard Tier, Pete Coderides, the Carbonellis from Essential Contractors, Jeremy Stein from Central Security, Keplinger, Eric Keplinger from Mini Builders, and Jay Moss. So these are people that have already committed to us and said, we need a group like this. We're committed to it. We're going to pay it. So you can tell this is not any time. This is a group. It's a really good, strong group that we hope to build on the future. So last but not least, what's next? Those that are interested in our group, please take an application, email Dan, email me. We'll send you one electronically. Once we determine the beginning membership, we'll need to form a new board, determine what tasks we'd like to begin working on, assign leadership. Again, this is not about old guys, right? Okay, this is about the future of Chesapeake. I'm just starting that, but we're just starting that. So that's all the younger people in this room as well. Our next meeting was planned for April or May. So once we figure out how many people want to join, how many applications we have, then we'll put together another meeting and then come up with our board and our tasks and things like that. The next thing, I am going to be afraid of this because this group here is a lot of smart people. So I'm really afraid to take questions about this from this group because you all know much more about it than I do. So because of time, and I'm right at 6:30, if you got any questions, I'll be here for a while, for as long as Mr. DeBooth lets us stay in the building. Maybe finish one more beer, I don't know. So one more drink.
We changed the energy management system to turn off the lights at 8:30.
Okay. So if you have any questions, I'd love to take them. Dan will take them, or we have emails, cell phones, whatever you want. So just for the matter of time, I'd like to go ahead and wrap up the meeting. That's okay. I want to thank you for putting this together, you and the rest of the group. And Tom makes in. So again, it's all about the city of Chesapeake and the heart of Chesapeake. So thank you for coming. We do have food. You can probably get a full plate to go and cover it up or something like that. Or I'm going to have a public. I'm going to have another beer. So you want to stay with me? That's how we started.